Hello, everyone, and welcome to the That's So Craven podcast, your one-stop shop for all things Fulham. And we're here today to discuss the Fulham West Ham game at the weekend. But first, you're probably thinking, who's this on the mic? Well, it's David Crave here, covering for Jack. Imagine my surprise this morning when Elton threw me the keys, and I don't know, maybe he was having a moment of madness, or maybe he wanted to show the world that nepotism was not part of the That's So Craven club that we have here, or maybe he was just a bit tired. So let's find out from the man himself. Elton, how are you?
Um, Good evening. All of the above, mate. All of the above. I like sprinkling a little bit of chaos into my life, and I thought that you'd probably just about qualified now to have the best shot of reeling in this mob.
Yeah,
And besides, it's entertaining. I'm looking forward to it. You're well and truly capable of doing a better job than most of us. So I'm happy to be here. If you're asking me how I'm feeling, you didn't, but I'll tell you. Um, a little bit disappointed on the weekend. Um, I'm we didn't pick up a point on the road. It was a point at home. Feels like
mm,
it's got to be a couple of points lost. We may not have thought that before the fixture, but given the showing on the weekend, we were the better side for all but the last 10 touches of the football, really. And
yeah,
it's frustrating to have only taken a point, but plenty of positives, and I'm looking forward to talking about it.
yeah. I think I feel the same. It was all set to be such a lovely day on Saturday. The sun was shining. Fulham had the £1 pints going again before the game, and it was just that last 95th minute that ruined everything, and I've been feeling pretty down in the dumps ever since. So I need a cathartic experience today, please, to cheer me up. But we're also joined by the man who always makes me feel better when Fulham drop points. I mean, he's the man that puts the cray into That's So Craven. It's Sam. How you doing, Sam?
I'm great. I'm not trying to do anything. I really love that Dave has just come in and is just starting to burn the family business aspect of this to the ground. He's like Germans to the royal family, and I'm kind of here for it because I like embracing and
Oh, I'm going to make you guys regret this. Don't worry.
oh, you Krauts. Anyway, no, it's really good to be here. I've got very little energy, but I just that smile that you can't see because you're listening on Spotify or wherever you get your podcast from. Dave Smile, that always keeps me going. And yeah, just happy to be here, happy to rock.
Yeah, well, I'm looking forward to getting into the game. I think just before we start, if anyone's tuning in on the live stream, then please fire through your questions and Elton will give us a notification and we'll try and address as many as we can. I also want to do a shout out to our Fulham Discord, That's So Craven Fulham Discord that we have running. If you haven't joined already, then please get involved. It's a great place to discuss all things Fulham. Got some really good contributors in there, and we get great feeds from socials. So good place to have a chat. And also make sure to check out our features that we release weekly. You'll see links on our socials to a midweek update and reviews. So yeah, plenty of content out there for everyone. So make sure to get involved. So let's start off. Let's get into the game. We've got to do it. As I said at the start, it was a really nice day. Fulham played really well for particularly in the first half, I thought. But you just come away feeling so disappointed when there's 2 points dropped so late like that. How are you coping with this, Elton? I mean, are you feeling that this is 2 points dropped, or are you feeling that there is positives to take, and maybe it's another point gain towards the magical 40 number?
Look, I'll take the point, but I am disappointed, and it's part of my rolled up disappointment, really, in how we are being forced to start the season, if I can sort of express it that way. And what I mean by that is I remain frustrated that um, our preparations were hampered by you know uh, business done too late. I'm happy for the transfers. I'm excited about the players we've got, but seeing key people still on the bench is a frustration to me. And It's just the fact that we're not settled. And chatting just before we went live, I was saying that elite football, elite sport is like war. And if you had an elite unit of 6 or 8 or 10 people and you swap 2 of them out, you're going to, under extreme pressure and in difficult operational, settings, you're going to get some errors that you thought you were really well trained for, and that should never happen. And I just wonder, without being, it's very easy to say, oh, this is just very Fulhamish, that we drop a point so late, and we do that all the time. But I just think that it's distracting for all players concerned, not only the new people, but the guys that have been around the team for a long time. It's not yet settled. We haven't solved all the pieces of the puzzle. There are still things being tried, and we should be 3 or 4 games. That should be 3 or 4 games behind us, and I'm frustrated by that, because I just don't think you can afford to approach a Premier League season like that. Every single encounter, particularly the ones that should be winnables, you just cannot afford to come in and not firing on all 4 cylinders, or 6 cylinders, or 10 cylinders. So that's kind of where I'm at, really.
Yeah, I mean, the way I described it in our group after the game was a comfortable win that we drew. And, it really did. I don't think West Ham deserved anything from the game. I felt that we started the game the stronger team. I thought the first half we were the stronger side overall, created the most chances. Second half, I think we dropped off a bit in intensity, but West Ham didn't really pressure us. I never felt that we were going to concede. So it was a bit of a surprise right at the end there. And it did knock me for 6. Sam, how did you feel about the game?
Look, there's okay. I'll lean on positivity first, because there are some points that, like, I do think were good. I mean, it was such a joy to see Anderson back in the fold, and just really that whole defensive line now, it just filled me with so much confidence, and just it looks so good and so cohesive, and it was just perfection. I was really, really loving that. And I thought as well, Traore was great. I thought he's really, really coming into his own. It really kind of feels like Fulham's his team now, and that's really, really nice to see. Obviously got completely robbed of a penalty. I'm sure we'll discuss that at a later point. And ESR, I mean, look, he's kind of interesting, because he can definitely ball. We've genuinely got a player there. All he needed was one moment of magic, and he made that moment of magic. So I can't criticize him too much. The rest of the park, though, I don't know what was going on. So, and I'm sure we're going to break this down. Oh, and also Sasa Lukic as well. I'm still pretty big on Sasa Lukic. Jimenez, for some weird reason, decided to play left wing for about 70 minutes, which was just basically building a blood vessel explosion in my eye. And Andreas Pereira, for me, I know there's a lot of discourse on this, and if anything, I actually want somebody to prove me wrong in this, but I just did not think he had a good game. I understand he contributed to a goal contribution, but overall, for the entire game, I felt like his decision making was really, really poor. His composure as well was just very, very not the mark. I really like him as an attacking midfield, but at the moment, his move to center mid, it's just not working for me at all. And then obviously as well, the introduction to Nelson, like, because I mean, the first time he actually entered into my thought pattern, you guys asked me how I thought about him, and I said I genuinely didn't care. Now I care a lot. He's fantastic. Like, he looked incredible when he came on. So I've gone on a bit of a tangent there, so I'm just going to flick it back to you, Dave, on that.
Yeah, no, there's a lot to unravel there. I think it was interesting at the start where, I'd predicted we'd be an unchanged team for the fourth game in a row. I just didn't get the inclination that Marco was going to make any changes on Saturday. As much as I wanted to see Anderson come in, and I'd like to see a bit more of Sander Berger, I just had this feeling that, he'd continue playing the same team he's picked the last 3 games. So it was a real surprise, I think, on Saturday when we saw the starting lineup, not just because Anderson was in, which, a lot of people were really happy to see. But the other big surprise was Raul coming in for Rodrigo Muniz. And, that certainly was the talk of the terraces before kickoff was, what's happened here then? Is this, is Muniz injured? Has Marco decided to, give Raul the opportunity because Muniz has not taken his chances? And I think before the game, that was stirring up quite a lot of talk. And then when the game started, obviously we scored relatively early, didn't we? Within the first half an hour. Raul's kind of first real involvement came in the game when he was putting the ball in the back of the net. And I guess I've been a bit critical of Raul. He's been, I think, in the games I've seen him up until the weekend this season, he's looked a bit lackadaisical, not really kind of troubled the centre halves. And I'd always favour Muniz, not just because of the run he went on last year, but just because of his strength to hold off defenders and bring other people into the game. But that said, he's had a lot of chances and he's not taken them. So Silva decided to give Raul a go. And, say what you want about Raul's performances today and his performance on Saturday. But if he puts the ball in the net, that matters. And I suspect he keeps his place. I mean, what do you think, Sam?
I respectfully disagree with that. Just purely because I understand the logic of if he can score a goal, then he scores a goal. I get that. But the thing I really like about Muniz is Muniz actually helps facilitate more goals that actually come. Whereas I felt that for such large portions of the game, Raul was just nowhere. He wasn't contributing to anything. I can't take away the fact that he was in the right place at the right time, and that's what you need as a striker. But honestly, I feel like if Muniz was playing, maybe he wouldn't have necessarily scored a goal, but I also think he would have actually provided more for the rest of the team.
Yeah.
And because he actually does that. So I refute that argument because I don't think I think squad cohesion and actually everyone playing as a unit is better than just one individual that can actually create an opportunity, because I want everybody to be creating opportunities across the park. So I understand the logic. I just disagree.
No, I hear you. As I say, I'm a Muniz fan, and I'd like to see Muniz given more time to get that goal, and I think he will go on a run.
Yeah,
but it's just interesting now that Raul's been given the chance and scored, if Marco will persist. I mean, there's a really good question in the group from Jack, actually, who's following. He said, if Muniz plays against Preston tomorrow, as you suspect he would, and scores, does he win his spot back? What do you think about that, Elton?
Maybe it's Silva's cunning plan. Give Raul a start, knowing that I can give Muniz a start on Tuesday night, and give him an opportunity in an easy environment. I don't know. I doubt it. But I'm with you, Dave, about obviously we need to score goals and we need our striker to score goals. And we can't get away from that. And I get why Silva did it. To my thinking, part of what Silva was doing is actually preserving the competitive nature of all positions in the squad and actually keeping Raul in the game, because if he continually refused to start him while Muniz wasn't scoring, that sends a pretty grim message to Raul, and maybe he loses interest completely and drops his head on the training track and ceases to be any kind of competition for Muniz whatsoever. And that would be a pretty bad move, because we need that all around. But I also think that he has been contributing, and I know conventionally people believe that a centre forward and a striker should be scoring goals and that's his job, but they're more than that, and he he's been doing everything right, and I I understood why Silva picked Raul, and I said to Jack, um, "You watch, he's going to score a hat trick here, isn't he?" You know,
Yeah.
well, it didn't happen, but he did score pretty quickly, which just makes the situation between the two of them even more difficult, because I think if he had an ordinary game, I'd be picking Muniz again. I wouldn't be picking Ralph for 5 games to see how he'd go.
Mm.
And if it was up to me, I probably would have given Muniz one more. I really would have.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think as Skibby's pointed out in the chat, I think if Muniz had played that first half, he very likely he would have been able to have got himself on the score sheet given the amount of kind of chances we were kind of getting. So but at the end of the day, what happened was Raul started and Raul scored. And I think, we've touched on it here. And I think over the last 4 games, my kind of feeling about Fulham at the moment is we come out the blocks quite quickly, and we've had good first halves in games over the last 4. And then kind of the second half, we kind of tailed off a little bit. And I think maybe that's fitness for some players like Smith Rowe, etc. But the problem is if we're not taking our chances when we get them in the first half, we're not giving ourselves that platform to hold on to the result to the end of the game. And perhaps that's another reason if Muniz is not scoring, Silva wanted to get someone out there who potentially could get on the end of a cross, get us in front, and maybe we take more of our chances in that half and see the game out. As things happened, we only scored one of our chances in the first half, and the second half we did see the drop off that we've seen in previous games, and unfortunately West Ham have found a way back into a game they didn't deserve to get anything from. So I don't know. It will be interesting, and I think the Preston game will be a deciding factor over who starts up front in the next game. If Muniz has a really good game, we could see him potentially get the nod. If not, then I think Raul probably will keep his place for another week. Let's talk about the goals, Sam. I've just noticed Elton's logged off. He's obviously had enough of my hosting for one day. Yeah, he's got completely sick of it and he's gone on strike, and I can't blame him. But me and you, we'll see it out. I think let's talk about the goal. So good move. I mean, good run by ESR, and so Pereira seemed to have all of the time in the world to turn and pick a pass over the top, didn't he?
Look, I mean, for me, it was really, really interesting. And I think ESR and Nelson as well really kind of like reminded me that instinct with these players is something that you just can't necessarily like teach, like because I think most players would just allow that ball to like go out, but ESR was like, nah, there's still opportunities. And he found it. And to be honest, when that was happening, I just didn't see him doing it. And that is why he is there. And I am sitting with you, even though I'm enjoying it. I feel that ESR did great there. Raul did do well. He objectively did do well, and he objectively got himself in the right spot. I just wish it was Muniz. And then when it comes to like the West Ham goal, I thought West Ham played crap for the majority of the game. Like I thought they were really, really disappointing. I was actually thinking at a couple points, if I was a West Ham fan, I would be furious. I would be angry at so many people, and I'd be effing and jeffing online even more than I already was about the very trivial things I was complaining about. And then just for them to just kind of like concede in the way that they did and how they did. I can't take it away from them because they just caught us napping, and it's Premier League. You can't take a minute, you know?
Yeah, I agree with you. I think, that first goal, I do think ESR was the kind of the guy that made it happen. He spotted the gap, he made the run. Pereira received the ball in midfield, and I think West Ham will be really disappointed about how much space Pereira had to play the ball over the top. It shows what ESR is giving us. I think he's giving, he's someone that will run in behind, as he's shown. He's someone that will be very direct, and that's goal and assist now in his first 4 games, despite not being fully fit. I think we're starting to see what he can offer us long term in flashes, and I think there's more to come. You're right. I think relatively simple finish from Raul. He did well to get up the pitch and get across to the front post. Relatively simple finish. But yeah, I give a lot of the credit for the first goal to ESR for making the run, keeping the ball in play, and finding that run by Raul. And then, yeah, the second goal, as you say, caught napping. It's a strange one, Elton, because to me it looked like it should have been our throw when the ball went 100%. Down the line. And I wonder if that contributed towards the defence switching off, because Robinson kind of had his back turned when they threw the ball in over his head, and it was a bit of a mess. It was a bit of a mess. All 3 of the defenders really kind of panicked a little bit as the ball came into the box. So what was your take on it?
Oh, look, I was sort of shocked that the game went on, because I was certain that it was our throw. And I mean, I know you play to the whistle, and you don't assume anything, but when you're close to the action and you're certain that it's your throw, you can say you don't assume anything, but you will be taken somewhat by surprise, and everything's moving quickly. And fair play to them; they reacted really quickly and caught us off guard. But I think the one sort of mitigating circumstance there is that I think they probably reacted better and smarter than us completely switching off. I think we were just kind of wrong-footed, and they were very clever at making that very last desperate break.
Yeah.
Because if we win the throw there, you waste a little bit of time, and I think you could have easily run the clock down if we had possession at that point in that throw. And I know that's a lot of ifs and buts, but and it was very well done by them. And Bowen did incredibly well. But yeah, it's just frustrating. So
yeah, no, you touched on a point there. I think when there's a few people I saw online were criticising Traore actually for swinging the ball into the box, which led to them getting hold of it and playing it up the right. And could he have been a bit smarter in that moment and kept it in the corner? And again, it's all hindsight, but maybe that's where we could have been a bit smarter too.
Yeah.
Other than that, I think I really didn't think West Ham deserved anything out of the game. I think first half they really struggled to create anything, and our defence looked really solid. And it gives me a lot of hope for that back line, moving forward. Anderson looks so assured. It was great to see him in the team. He wears that number 5 spectacularly well. And those long balls that he plays, they're just a thing of beauty, aren't they?
He was fantastic. He was fantastic the whole game. It's just night and day with like him versus Diop. It's just he's just so elite, and he's just gotten so much better as well. He's gotten so much better than the Parker season, and I just want to give him a good attacking unit that can actually get goals, because now there's actually no excuse where like our defense is locked, or it feels at least really, really locked. So if we're not putting goals at this point, I think we just have to have a very, very hard look at ourselves and be like, we are objectively the problem. Because we can't keep blaming defense. The defense is like a shoe-in now. And I just really don't want to repeat this Parker season. I don't think we'll have it, but I don't want to see it again,
Well, no, I think the defense is the strongest element of our team now. Sorry, Elton.
No, I was going to say 2 things really. I loved how quick Anderson brought it and actually put that long ball across that diagonal. It was so quick early in the game. It was just like he just announced himself, and everyone, I'm sure, every Fulham fan who remembers him just went, yes, thank you. Welcome back. And, I was saying to Jack, it's really difficult to articulate in the statistics, but it's very noticeable how quickly he brings the ball under control and how quickly he passes the ball. And it's
Sure.
probably only a second and a bit, but it matters big time. It gives Tete a chance to um, be free, and he probably buys him 2 or 3 yards
Mhm.
and just takes the pressure off him. I thought it was interesting. I do agree that defensively, um, when we are defending, it's looking like the real deal. Bassi, for me, still got caught a few times and
Yeah.
got very flustered.
Mm.
And I think we just got to be better at making sure that wherever possible, without being over reliant on it and overly predictable, that we find a way, in the triangles, and Eleno's included in this, that we always find a way to kind of over rely, if I can say that, on Anderson. Because Bassi gets caught, he gets flustered, and it's fucking scary,
Yeah.
It's really, really scary when he gets closed down like that, because it all gets a bit hectic. He throws his body around and he kind of overreacts really quickly. And it's yeah, I just get very anxious when he's doing that. And similarly, if it's between Robinson and Bassi to create the build up, I'm never as happy. But yeah, I thought Anderson was really, really good. He was very high quality throughout, and I really love having him back. And I'm so glad that he started, because we were talking about it a lot,
Yeah.
about the fact that despite the massive chasm in quality gap between you know um, the previous four, if you want to put it that way, and Anderson sitting on the bench, we all, none of us would have been surprised if Silver had actually kept him waiting longer. But I
Mm.
think the need is so pressing that I think he just forced his way in, and yeah. Um, well, we got a similar a similar predicament in defensive midfield,
Yeah, I was
which
just about to say, let's talk about the midfield. Sam's
yeah,
kind of touched on it at the start there, but um, my kind of view is I thought Lukic had another really solid first half on Saturday. I thought he's really looking the part this year, and he's really stepped up. But it's not quite working. Sam, you mentioned Pereira at the start. I have to say I do agree. I think Pereira is struggling a little bit, and the partnership isn't quite working in the centre mid as well as I'd have liked it to have. Is he under pressure, Sam? Is Pereira's position under pressure?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, like let's call it what it is. He's, in my opinion, at least, he's an attacking midfield. That's his best position, and I think he actually plays it well. And I think he should be doing an interchange with ESR. I understand the logic of trying to find a new position for him, but it just, I think he's great as like a playmaker and pulling the strings, provided he actually has that space and security. That's why Paulinho Reed and him worked really, really well for as long as they did. Now that security isn't necessarily there as much, and on top of that, he's actually got responsibilities now, and it just feels a little bit like the best salesman at the retail shop has just been made into a manager, and they're just not prepared for it. And there's a whole bunch of other stuff that comes with that position that just doesn't complement them as well, and they're getting flustered, and just, you know what, because I'm not actually saying that I want to start Harrison Reed, because I don't actually think he's at Premier League level, God love him. But I feel that Harrison Reed, for example, would have just made better decisions all game. Because like Pereira was booting it out, and just there was very little composure going on there.
Mm.
I know he had a couple of moments that were good, and yeah, we've spoken about him contributing. But for the majority of the game, I just was just sitting there just thinking, what are you doing? Or
Mm.
I just don't understand the logic. And you can just purely put that down to best case scenario, panic. Worst case scenario, you just don't know.
Mm.
And he's an elite level footballer. Like, he is a greater skill than most people will ever have in their entire life. But I think we should look for the best position for him, which I think it was potentially coming off the bench and doing a really nice rotation with ESR, especially if they're not necessarily the fittest. And I'm not saying Sander Berge is the answer. Is it Sander Berge or Sander Berger? I keep saying conflicting things.
Berger.
Is it Berger?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not sure if it's Sander Berger. I'm not sure if it's Harrison Reed. I'm not even sure if it's Josh King, but I know it's not Andreas. And I love him, and I say that with care.
Yeah.
Let me try.
Go.
So a number of things happened, right? So we lost João Palhinha, who was, let's be honest, he's a unique kind of a player. He's not everyone's best ever defensive midfielder, and God knows we've found it really difficult to partner with him, and maybe that's just because we don't have the right complement in our squad. But I don't think he's that easy to complement, because he kind of brings unique skills and forces a team to play in a certain way given the way he goes about it, right? And then what we did was we genuinely upgraded our number 10, which I think has been a successful move, which immediately displaces Pereira and then puts Marco Silva in a kind of conundrum, because he's got a lot of trust in Pereira, and I think genuinely ESR's a better player, and he's proving to be better in that 10 position. So then Marco Silva is in a position of what to do with Pereira. I like him. I depend on him. I rely on him for set pieces. He's still delivering on the set piece front. What do I do with him? And maybe Marco's kind of also got the I pick my best 11 hat on to a degree. But I think the real problem in all of this is that we're yet to establish a winning formula at the base of midfield, right? We've spent a lot of money on a player that there's a great amount of optimism around. I've certainly seen flashes. I'm really excited about Sander Berger, and I reckon he's going to be. I think he's going to be the man to actually improve on the way we defend and build up from defensive midfield better than João Palhinha was ever going to do. As I said, João, I love him for what he does, but he's certainly not a complete defensive midfielder, and I'm not sure he's Marco Silva's preferred style of defensive midfielder. He took him. We had as I said, the chat, had a wonderful summer romance with him, but it was never going to last. And I actually think that Pereira kind of falls foul of been trying to buddy up with someone in the six who I don't think is established. And Lukic is a weird one for me. He's done really well for us this season. I'm really happy about the fact that he's found some form, but I'm still not buying the fact that he's our number 6. And if he is, Pereira isn't really partnering that well with him. I think it's unfair for you to say Harrison Reed is not a Premier League player, Sam. I think he definitely is a Premier League player, but we're trying to kind of step up to the next level, and I think we need more. And so I'm sort of thinking the answer has to be, and it's a bit like us pulling our hair out over the problems we had in defence, knowing that it was kind of a technical and hypothetical argument until Anderson came in and we were kind of settled. And then now how do we feel about it? And I sort of feel the same way about our midfield, that until Berger comes in, he's fit, he's back, he's up to speed completely, then and only then do I kind of really want to make some final decisions about what we need as a partner for Berger. That's kind of
No,
where I'm thinking.
yeah, I agree. And I think these cup games are a real kind of benefit at the moment. So we can see players like Berger get 90 minutes and try and push for that place in the first team. I think where I'm at with it at the moment is I think Berger has been brought in to play the six, but Lukic has just been so steady, and it allows Pereira, the set piece taker, to remain in the team. Marco's kept that partnership in place while we bring Berger up to full fitness, and that makes sense. But I think long term we will see Berger play six, and I think who partners him is the question. Where I'm at with Pereira is I think Marco upgraded 10 because he wanted more goals, more of a goal threat from that position, and I think he's recruited well in that department. But we are lacking in a set piece taker, and Pereira is a good set piece taker. He's a hard worker. He's a good set piece taker. He's very established in this team, and Marco trusts him. And I hear those arguments, but I think for me, I personally don't always look forward to watching Andreas Pereira as much as I look forward to other players in the team and seeing them perform. For me, he's always been quite a frustrating player because he can be quite wasteful with the ball. And I think that's being exposed a lot more in the 8, and it's quite frustrating. I think moving forward, I'd quite like to see maybe Lukic get that opportunity next to Berger and see if there's enough creativity out of their partnership to help the attackers, because clearly they're both good defensively. But if we lose Pereira, do we lose some more, creativity from that midfield? Well, I think Lukic could step up and do that role. I think he's done it before at Torino, and I'd like to see that come through. When we talk further forward, we obviously started with. Sorry, did you want to touch?
No, I'm just. I was going to segue there anyway, so I'm just so glad you're doing it.
Yeah. I just wanted to touch on that because further forward, we started a game with Iwobi on the left and Traore on the right, and both had decent first halves. I think be a good point to touch on the penalty incident as well and get your views on that. So yeah, it was an interesting. We started with a very familiar 2 wingers, and we made changes in the second half. One of which was Reece Nelson, who was electric. So yeah, if you could give me your thoughts, Sam, on first the penalty incident, but then also the performance of Reece Nelson.
Well, look, I mean, I'll never claim to be a great scholar of the game. I'm just a frazzled young man who comes on here and just shouts my opinions into the ether. So, but to me, if you smack a player in the back of the head while they're running at full pelt in the penalty box, I don't understand how that's not a penalty. So, and I feel really bad for Traore because I feel that when that does actually happen, when that does happen to players, does kind of rock their confidence a little bit for the rest of the game because they're just thinking, why was I robbed of this kind of situation? And I feel that like he still played a really good game, but I think if he would have got that penalty, I think he would have actually played a little bit of a better one. So I mean, we're talking in hypotheticals here, so we can never really fully know. But let's talk in certainties because Reece Nelson, mate, he is gas. Also, okay. Here's the thing. I understand why certain players can get signed to certain teams, especially like your Arsenals, your Chelseas, your yada yada yadas. But you just kind of forget because you do kind of just get accustomed to a certain standard. And Iwobi's been really, really good for us. But then the second he got up the pitch, I was like, that's that other level. That is that other thing. There's you can't articulate it. It's just there's some people who are just born to play in a very, very specific way. Like you can kind of teach that, but they just do things. And I'm like, as I said before earlier, I didn't care at all. I could not care more about this kid now. Like I'm so fascinated. I genuinely want him to. I don't think he will, but I genuinely want him to start against Newcastle. I mean, he's probably will start in Preston. He's impressed me enough. Yeah, he looks awesome. He looks really, really, really awesome. And I can see why he was an Arsenal player. And yeah, I'm really excited about this kid.
Yeah, I thought Iwobi had actually not a bad first half, but it was kind of overshadowed because as soon as Reece Nelson came on, it kind of brought us back into the game at that point. So half time, West Ham made a couple of changes, which they had to do, and they had a little bit of possession, started getting a little bit on top without creating too much. But here's him coming on the pitch, and also Sander Berger as well, Elton, I thought, were the kind of shining lights off the bench. What did you make of it?
Well, I just want to comment that if there's anyone out there that's ever been at a party or been introduced to Sam and he says, "I don't care about you," just take some sort of solace from the fact that if a week is a long time in politics, a couple of weeks is a different galaxy for Sam, because he's gone from "I don't give a shit about this guy" to wanting to be his new best friend, which is very lovely and so fucking predictable.
Do you know what I like to say?
You've had your say.
No. Just to tail off on that point. I frequently say that if I don't remember your name, it's not my fault that you didn't make a good impression on me. I remember Reece Nelson now because he made an excellent impression. Sorry, Father, go on.
Fair enough. I thought he was really exciting and just the kind of thing we need. Well, we kind of need two of those, but I don't mind what we've got in Traore. I think he's having a cracker of a season. I think his end product is a big improvement on what we saw last year, and I think it's unfair to expect him to be messy at the end of his manoeuvres. I think he's creating so many opportunities for us, if not chances. We've discussed the fact that he holds on to the ball for too long, but even in doing that, he's actually buying free kicks in dangerous areas when he's doing that. So more power to the guy, and I think we are bringing him into the game more than we were last season. We're kind of mindful to the opportunity, and I reckon Anderson will be even more dangerous when it comes to that. It was a bit interesting the other day, wasn't it, when Anderson kept on smacking the ball over to Iwobi, and constantly he was open and free, and they weren't clocking onto it. You'd think that was sort of almost becoming quite predictable. Anyway, I digress. Berger, I like the guy, and I thought he was impressive. And I think I'm not sure he's got to do that much more. Maybe he gets a start on Tuesday night in the Preston game, and turns in a performance that finally earns him a start on Saturday. I certainly hope so, because for me, the whole delay in getting these key players that we've spent a lot of money on, who we clearly intend to start, the whole delay in getting them into the first team on a Saturday is very problematic. It's so unsettling. And even if it's not perfect, I'd rather it happen sooner rather than later. Yeah.
I agree. I think Berger's close. And before we take a look at the stats, I just wanted to put out we spoke about Raul briefly at the start and how he took his goal and he got his goal. I don't think there's a lot more you can really say about Raul's performance on Saturday. I don't think he made a massive impact on the game other than that moment. Maybe I'm being unfair to him, but that was my view. I think the fans were quite pleased to see Moniz when he came on. He's obviously a fan favourite. And he got himself about without really getting any opportunities. I think he showed his strength and how he can occupy defenders a lot more than Raul. Again, something we've already touched on. So looking at the stats, we obviously edged the possession. You probably would have expected that. Shots, that really shows, I think, for me, how much more dominant we were in the game. He had twice as many shots as West Ham. Although the shots on target, not as high as we'd have liked. But the fact that we were creating opportunities and not taking them, I think that's potentially something that will frustrate Silva just as much as letting in a goal in the last minute, not taking these chances that we're creating to get ourselves ahead. Similar number of passes. I think, there was not too many corners in the game, but it was, there's nothing that really surprises me about those stats. Elton, your thoughts?
Well, I'm kind of left with the overriding thought that, we did fade in the second half overall. West Ham didn't really come at us. But I think we were more impressive in the first half, and we created a lot of opportunities, and we looked very, very good. And they didn't really have good answers for our very, very good movement from time to time.
Mm,
And the disappointing thing has to be that for the amount of ascendancy that we had in the first half, we could have gone in three goals up, and we
yeah.
should have had at least two, and that probably was the difference between the outcome. I'm sure Silva, as we discussed, I'm sure Silva's going to be rightfully disappointed that we lost it so late in the game, but I do think there are some mitigating circumstances there with that throw in. I know people will shout me down and say, "No, you should have been more professional than that. You should have probably, um, run the ball into a corner
Mm,
and just shut the game down way before that, rather than try to score a second." But I do think they did very well, and to kind of catch us out and grab the opportunity there. But yeah, I think it's kind of those stats are pretty representative for what I think we all saw.
yeah. Okay. So next one up is obviously Preston on Tuesday night. An opportunity, I think, for the players that didn't start on Saturday to get a run. And I think we're all hoping that those players take their chances and put pressure on the first 11 and give Marco something to think about. Who are you looking forward to seeing on Tuesday night, Sam?
Oh, I'm excited to see Cuenca get a run. Because I feel like he might get an opportunity, and I'd like to see that. I really hope Anderson also as well gets around. I would understand if he didn't, but I think just to kind of like keep his form tip top, I'd like to see him get a run. Um, they probably would start Bender. But honestly, it's Nelson. I just want to see Nelson. I want to see
Yeah.
what Nelson does, and also as I want to see the Nelson Muniz show, because I reckon that could be cool, and I reckon that could be tasty. I want to see if that works well. If that works well, I will be salivating.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a real opportunity for Muniz, isn't it, to try
Mm.
and break this barren run of his and
Mm.
start putting pressure to get himself back in the team quickly. Elton, same question to you. Is there players you're looking forward to seeing on Tuesday?
Well, I certainly hope Muniz gets a start, and Raul being given a start and scoring suggests that Raul is kind of a lock for Saturday. But I, yeah, I'm hopeful that Muniz gets a start and scores tomorrow night. Love to see Josh King get a
Yeah.
run. I don't think he's the answer to any of our major problems at the moment.
Mm,
We don't have a hardworking, backtracking, defensive central midfielder on the bench that can
mm,
suddenly come in and do a job for us. There's no one in the wings, frankly. It turns for me. So I'd like to see Sanderberg start in the six, and I'd like to see if Lukic can actually be a pairing for him. What I'd like to see in the eight in that pairing is someone who can kind of play those piercing balls
mm,
that I think Pereira's got in him, so we can be really dynamic in midfield. I have never seen that in Sasa Lukic. I don't really believe that that's part of his
mm,
game to really find that have the vision to play that early ball that just absolutely cuts it open. That frankly, someone like um, I think ESR's got that in him. I think um, maybe even Harry Wilson has that in him in this team. Nelson looks like he's got it, um, and but none of those guys are defensive midfielders or even central midfielders. So forget that idea. But so I'm keen to see us try out what might be our best hope until the next transfer window. Because I'm telling you, I think we're screaming for a new purchase in that eight position.
I tend to agree. I think there's going to be a lot of change in a centre midfield this season that as we get used to life without Polina, because the balance for Marco to find balance, he's going to have to trial new things. And as we've all said, we're not sure it's quite working with Lukic and Pereira. And while that may come good, I think there's a lot of players that will be knocking on the door. Sander Berger being the obvious one. So I think there's going to be some changes until they find the right formula. And long term, we may need to invest in that position. I think. I think you mentioned it there, King. I'd really like to see King feature on Tuesday, whether that's from the start or off the bench. He's just such an exciting talent. If we can get the opportunity to get him out there amongst other first team players, I think that'd be great. I think Godot's obviously signed a new contract and he's not out on loan, so he'll be an option. I'd be surprised if he wasn't on the bench. Given a chance in this game at some point. But other than that, I'm kind of with Sam. I'm quite looking forward to seeing Nelson start the game and seeing what kind of problems he can cause the defense. I'm expecting basically almost an 11 that didn't start on Saturday to come in. I don't foresee too many players that played on Saturday starting. I may be wrong, but it's just the impression I get. And look, it's another opportunity against an okay but not amazing Championship side for us to get through to the next round of the Cup, which we're going to need when we've got quite a big squad. We've got a lot of players to keep happy. So this game time is really important. It allows Silva time to experiment. It allows him, players time to get minutes and build partnerships. So I'm really hoping that, despite the fact that we'll be making lots of changes, which can be difficult, I think I'm really hopeful that we've got enough to get through this one and keep this run going. And then, as we know from last season, as the rounds go on, you start to see more of we start taking it a bit more seriously, don't we? We start seeing more of the first team players come in. So I'm certainly looking forward to it. And, if we can get the result, I think it will make everyone feel a little bit better after Saturday and start maybe looking more positively ahead to Newcastle.
Sure.
Okay, so let's have a... Oh, sorry, Sam. Did you have anything to add on that?
No, it was just very succinct. It was very succinct. I got nothing to add on top of that. Like, you're right. Anyway, go on. Continue.
Well, the other thing, I guess my question was going to be, it's pretty likely that Castagna will replace Tete. Surely you'd give Tete a rest because you need him. You need him on Saturday because he hasn't done anything wrong to suggest he's going to be replaced. My question to you is: Do you rest Robinson? You going to trust Cess at left back?
Yeah, it's a good question, isn't it? I mean, I thought Tete's looking really good at the moment. He's back to his 7 out of 10s every week, isn't he? He's just very steady. Looks like the old Tete, which is great. But we've got a fantastic option to replace him, and it will be knocking on the door all season, and that's Castagna. And he actually had a really good game, didn't against Birmingham. He was one of the players I thought that could hold his head held, that came out of it with his head held high. So I fully expect him to play, and you just know that he'll shine. He'll have another good game because that's what he does. He doesn't have bad games really, Castagna. And I'm sure you'll cut this and play this after Tuesday when he scores an own goal or something. But today he's been very consistent. But on the left, you're right. I have some concerns about Cess at left back, and I'm not sure he's quite ready for it yet. He may get another opportunity. Silva did say he needs games. This is the time to get him games. So yeah, I think we'll see him. But as I say, jury's out on whether he's good enough really to be a backup left back for us long term. I think. Yeah, lots to look forward to. Should we look at the table? I mean, Elton and I were talking before we went on air and Elton made the point that some of the teams before us, actually the results kind of went for us. And I know it's early to be saying that, but a lot of the teams below us drew or dropped points. So not many could overtake us on Saturday, despite the draw. I was saying that I think the biggest one for me was the Crystal Palace Leicester game. And Palace coming back into that kept them both down on 2 points each. So I was pleased with that result. Elton, any thoughts on the table in this early stage?
Yeah, well, that and the inverse of that being, of course, if we'd actually survived till beyond the 95th minute, we would have seen ourselves what were 2 more points, so we would be up in looking at the table.
Oh yeah,
Well, at least 8th, I guess,
yeah.
possibly 9th. And so yeah, it's disappointing, but not an absolute disaster. And we're still okay. I mean, if I look below us, you've got Tottenham, who you can't imagine are going to stay in 13th place. That's an underperformance for them at the moment. But you've got Tottenham, West Ham, Leicester, Crystal Palace, Ipswich, Wolves, Southampton, Everton. I don't think Wolves are going to stay down there either. I saw some
No.
highlights of their game against Newcastle, and they look pretty good, frankly. So they haven't got going yet, but yeah, look, 12th. I'd love to be sitting in the top half of the table, and if a couple of things had gone the other way, yeah, maybe we would be. But there we are.
Well, look, I mean, the win would have been giving us a bit of comfort. We're coming into 4, I think, are quite tricky games now. Newcastle, I think, is an opportunity, and if we can get points out of that game, then I think we look back at West Ham and Newcastle 4 points and think, we'll take that. I think we might have taken that before the 2 games, if you get what I'm saying. But it will give us the comfort, because after that, I think we've got a bit of a tricky away game at Forest, who I think have just beaten Liverpool. I think they're not a bad side and recruited well. Then we've got City away. Look away now. And then after that, we face Aston Villa at home. We're in a good side. So, we got to keep picking up points where we can. And because that could be a difficult run.
I hate playing Newcastle. I just really hate playing Newcastle over the last couple of years. They've really.
We're away, aren't we? We're away to Newcastle.
No, we're home to Newcastle on Saturday.
Oh, we're home. Okay, good.
Yeah.
Good. That's a tough fixture away. That's a very tough fixture away. Yeah, I don't know if you guys, without jumping into the preview of that game, but I don't know if you guys saw Newcastle's goals on the replay. A couple of tasty goals there.
They're definitely a good squad, and they're seemingly getting a little bit better and a little bit sharper. So I genuinely don't look forward to playing them. But you know what? I think that's more for a next pod that we actually hash that out. So
yeah. Let's save that one to the next pod. Let's save that one to the end. Okay. So Elton, without having the ability to change the slides, have we got anything else we'd like to talk about this afternoon?
No, mate. We're all done as far as the agenda goes. But hey, you're in control.
I'm in control. I'm in the hot seat. Yeah. No. Okay. Well, it's a good time to end it. I think. Thanks for giving me the opportunity today. I think we'll look forward to Jack coming back in, though, in his usual spot later in the week to discuss the Preston game. Also, if you're missing a bit of Putney perspective, then Skibby's currently struggling with a bit of serious man flu, but I'm sure he'll be back soon. So get well soon to Skibby. And yeah, I think, of course, everyone, it'd be great if you could continue to like the podcast, share the podcast with your friends, talk about it with your friends, and subscribe to it. And also subscribe to our social media channels as well. You won't miss out on any of the great content that we're sending out every week. And yeah, we'll be back later in this week, around Wednesday or Thursday, to talk about the Preston game, to look forward to the Newcastle game. And hopefully Fulham can keep this cup run going, and we can look positively at Saturday. So thanks to everyone for joining us. Thank you for everyone on the live stream for tuning in, and thanks for listening. And as always, come on, you Whites.